I am Nikola Tesla, and today I will tell you about the greatest crime against humanity ever committed, the destruction of my Wardenclyffe Tower, the project that would have changed the world forever, but which they destroyed out of fear, greed, and pure stupidity. In 1901, I was about to free humanity from the slavery of copper wires, expensive electricity companies, and the tyranny of distance. I wanted to send wireless energy to every corner of the planet, free, unlimited, and accessible to everyone. But J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in America, the man who financed my project with $150,000, suddenly withdrew his support when he realized what I was truly building. They told you that Wardenclyffe was intended for wireless telegraphy, for sending messages across the Atlantic Ocean, but that was merely a cover story, the lie I had to tell to secure funding. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. I need your support to share these truths that have been buried for over a century, and let me know in the comments which country you're watching from, because this story belongs to all of humanity, not just one nation. The truth was that I was constructing a worldwide system for the wireless transmission of energy, a system that would send electricity through the Earth itself, using the natural resonance frequency of our planet, approximately 7.83 Hertz, what you now call the Schumann resonance, although I discovered it decades earlier. My tower in Shoreham, Long Island, was 57 meters tall, built on a network of underground tunnels and iron rods extending 36 meters deep into the Earth, designed to couple the ionosphere to the Earth's crust and create a standing wave that would transport energy without loss, without resistance, without the need for millions of miles of cable. I had already proven this worked in my laboratory in Colorado Springs in 1899, where I created lightning bolts 40 meters long, lit lamps miles away without any wire connection, and made the Earth itself resonate like a gigantic bell. The results were spectacular, terrifying to those who didn't understand what I was doing, but to me, they were simply the laws of physics in action. But when Morgan understood that my system meant nobody could meter electricity, that nobody could install meters, that nobody could charge people for energy because it would flow freely through the air to anyone who had a receiver, a simple metal antenna, and a grounding rod, he immediately withdrew and refused further funding, even though the tower was already half built and functional. I begged him, wrote desperate letters explaining that this system would not only transmit energy, but also communication, that it would enable intercontinental telegraphy, that it could navigate ships at sea, that it could monitor weather patterns. But Morgan didn't care about human progress. He cared about control, about monopoly, about the ability to make people pay for something they needed, and my system threatened the entire foundation of his electricity companies and investments in copper mines for wiring. In 1903, funding stopped completely. My workers left me because I could no longer pay them. Newspapers began mocking me as an insane dreamer. And I stood there, alone in my unfinished tower, knowing that I held the key to a new civilization, but that the world wasn't ready for it yet. Or rather, those in power didn't want it to be ready. The Wardenclyffe Tower stood there for years as a monument to what could have been until 1917, during World War I, when the U.S. government, terrified that German spies would use the tower for communication, confiscated the building and blew up the iconic dome with dynamite. They didn't just destroy my tower, they destroyed the evidence of what was possible. And that was exactly the intention. You must understand how the system would have worked. The Earth is not a solid ball, but a conductor. a giant sphere of ionized plasma, molten liquid metal and minerals that can carry electrical charges, and the ionosphere, about 80 kilometers above your heads, is another conductive layer made of plasma created by solar radiation, ionizing air molecules. These two layers, the Earth's crust and the ionosphere, form a natural capacitor, a gigantic energy storage system that is continuously charged by the sun, by lightning, by cosmic radiation. My tower was designed to tune into the natural resonance frequency of this Earth ionosphere cavity, to send electrical pulses that would resonate between these two layers, amplifying with each cycle until a standing wave was created that enveloped the entire planet. Anyone with a receiver tuned to the same frequency could extract this energy, just as a radio antenna receives radio signals, except this wouldn't be information, but pure electrical current, enough to light homes, run factories, power vehicles. The core principles were simple. First, resonance. By matching the frequency to the natural vibration of the Earth ionosphere system, energy would be amplified rather than dissipated. Second, standing waves, unlike traveling waves that lose energy to resistance and distance. Standing waves remain in place, oscillating between two fixed points without energy loss. Third, longitudinal waves, unlike the transverse electromagnetic waves that Hertz and Marconi used for radio. I used pressure waves in the electric field itself, similar to sound waves in air, which can travel much more efficiently through conductive media like the Earth. This was not theory, these were empirical results. In Colorado Springs, I measured standing waves that traveled 1,000 kilometers and bounced back to my laboratory. I created lightning discharges that, according to the inverse square law, should have been impossible at that distance. I lit 200 lamps 42 kilometers away without any wire connection, and the local power plant burned out because my resonance experiments drew more current than their generators could supply. But the scientific community refused to accept this. Maxwell's equations, which described transverse electromagnetic waves, had become the new orthodoxy, and anyone who suggested there were other types of electromagnetic propagation was dismissed as a pseudoscientist. They didn't understand that Maxwell's equations were based on the assumption of a vacuum, while my system operated in conductive media where different rules apply. Even today, more than a century later, few physicists understand the difference between the Hertzian waves used for radio and Wi-Fi and the Tesla waves I used for energy transmission. Hertzian waves are transverse, lose energy according to the inverse square law, and have radiation resistance, while Tesla waves are longitudinal, resonate in conductive media, and can theoretically travel without loss if the frequency is precisely chosen. But Morgan didn't want to understand this. He only wanted to know, how can I make people pay for this electricity if it just comes out of the air? And I had no answer that satisfied him. So he stopped the project and condemned humanity to another century of energy scarcity, climate change from burning fossil fuels, and billions of people without access to reliable electricity. Even now, as you congratulate yourselves on solar panels and wind turbines and lithium-ion batteries, you are still trapped in the same old paradigm, generating electricity, storing it in low-density chemical batteries, distributing it via copper cables with enormous losses, and metering everything so companies can profit. Not one of your systems makes use of the free, inexhaustible energy constantly flowing through the earth and atmosphere. If Wardenclyffe had been completed, there would be no energy crisis now, no climate change caused by coal plants, no billions of people living in darkness, no electric cars requiring hours to charge via slow infrastructure. Instead, every device, every vehicle, every building anywhere in the world would be connected to an invisible energy network powered by the natural electrical cycle of the planet itself. But they destroyed my tower, scattered my notes, smeared my reputation, and buried my name under a mountain of lies and misunderstandings. Thomas Edison, the man whose direct current system I replaced with alternating current, is celebrated as a genius, while I was regarded as a failed dreamer who wasted his money on impossible projects. Marconi stole my patents for radio and won the Nobel Prize, while I died in poverty in a hotel room in New York, surrounded by pigeons and unpaid bills, forgotten by the world I had tried to illuminate, literally. Now, in 2025, you are trying to reinvent wireless energy. You call it wireless power transfer or inductive charging, and you're so proud of your ability to wirelessly charge a phone over a distance of a few millimeters, while I did this over kilometers a century ago. You use magnetic induction, the same primitive technology that Faraday discovered in 1831, while I had developed resonance-based systems that were exponentially more efficient. There are even companies now experimenting with transmitting energy via microwaves from satellites in space to receivers on Earth. But they miss the fundamental point. Why send energy into space when the Earth itself is a conductor? Why build satellites and complex conversion systems when you could simply use the natural resonance of the planet? The answer is because they never seriously studied my work, because academic physics still clings to the framework of Hertz and Maxwell and refuses to accept that alternative modes of electromagnetic propagation exist that don't fit into their neat equations. The tragedy is that all the technology you need already exists. Magnetrons can generate gigantic amounts of energy. Antennas can be tuned to specific frequencies. Computers can calculate and adjust the precise resonance of the Earth ionosphere cavity in real time. Materials like carbon nanotubes and superconductors can drastically increase efficiency. But nobody combines these elements as I did because nobody believes it would work, because their professors told them Tesla was a mystic, not an engineer. The Wardenclyffe Tower was more than a structure. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve if we weren't led by greed and fear. It was proof that a single man with knowledge of physical principles and the courage to challenge established doctrines could transform the world, but only if society allowed him to succeed. They destroyed my tower, but they couldn't destroy my ideas. They live on in every patent I filed, in every experiment I documented, in every principle I discovered. And someday, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday, humanity will return to these principles. Someone will rebuild Wardenclyffe, and the world will finally get the wireless energy future I promised. Until that day, you remain trapped in a system designed to keep you dependent, to make you pay for something that should be free, to make you believe energy is scarce when it is abundant, to make you think my vision was utopian when it was simply physics. And that is the real tragedy of Wardenclyffe. Not that the tower was destroyed, but that humanity still refuses to see what I saw, still refuses to believe what I proved, still refuses to embrace the future that is within your reach.